Afternoon Talk on SAfm.
Right, so welcome to the second half of the Afternoon Talk Show. My name is Ashraf Garda. Remember this, anytime you want to communicate with me, 0891 104207. 34701 is the SMS number. They cost you R2. Facebook, it's working now. It's sort of off the line for a while, which you need to like my Facebook page. And of course, you can also follow me on Twitter, which is Ashraf Garda1. And if you are commenting and tweeting and retweeting what we talk about next, I would love it if you use the hashtag in the spotlight, all capital I, TH and S, in the spotlight. I'd love it if you do just that. So in the spotlight today, in fact, is Dr. Pieter Mulder, who's a man very much in the spotlight, Freedom Front leader, also Deputy Minister of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries. Well, good afternoon, Dr. Mulder. Thanks for your time.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much, yeah.
Yeah, you do realize, suddenly you become like what sort of enemy number one in the space of a week?
Well, I hope that's not true. It would be very sad if that is a reality, because my experience up to now is that most of the arguments and debates has been on non-issues. That was not part of the whole thing. So I think people are chasing ghosts at the moment and then debating that. And, well, I don't think that's fair. Well,
I'm certainly going to get some calls, and I'm sure some people will pick up on the issues about yourself. But I also thought it's a good chance to talk about you and what makes you tick. You come from a family, if I can say, with a proud, in inverted commas, proud political tradition. Just take me back to where it all began for you.
Well, it depends how far you want to go back. My great-grandfather, Andries Mulder, was in Paul Kruger's Volksraad, if you want to go that far. If you go to my grandfather, he was a politician in the provincial council. My father was in parliament, and so am I. So if you really want to talk about traditional leaders, maybe I can be a traditional leader in Afrikaner circles, in that sense, with a long line behind me, yes.
When was your first political awareness? Meaning, when you were a young kid and you were aware of the fact that you have a family with a political tradition, but that possibly is a calling for you as well?
Well, it's not a calling at all. You grew up in a political family. I think the positive of that is that you see the good parts of that, but there's a lot of negative also in that. And I know the normal saying is that chocolate is gone within the first week, and then there's a lot of hardship in a sense, and the quality of life is a problem in a certain sense, although people think it's differently. My family is in the Northwest Province. I'm most of the time alone in Cape Town, in Acacia Park. And my office is in Pretoria, so I'm going up and down all the time. And if I'm lucky, I see them on weekends. So in a sense, you must decide whether it's worth paying the price for making contribution.
All right, so looking at the good versus the bad, is it worth paying the price?
Well, up to a certain stage, if you think you can make a difference, and if you come to a stage where you think you can make no difference and doesn't improve South Africa's future, then you go on your own. My father told me, as you asked to him, that make a successful career. Don't put your heart in politics, and if politics come your way, you make a choice whether it's worth it well or not at that stage, but make sure you've got an alternative career, because a political career can be very short, can end very abruptly, and that's the way I did it. I had another career. I was a professor at university, and I think I did quite well. Then I was asked to come to politics, and if they want me to go back again, I'll go back. Easy as that. I'm not married to this position.
Most people want to be married to politics, isn't it? So you find it surprising that you're not married to it?
Well, I think my problem in a sense is I understand that, because sometimes there's no alternative for them, and specific in South Africa, and I saw that with councillors. I've been a councillor as well in my day, and at those days I think we got 80 Rand a month, because really you had another career, and it was just a service, helping people and playing something and playing a role there. Today it's salary, it's being paid a lot of money, and people really fight and kill even each other to remain in that position, and that's a bit sad maybe, but I understand that, because without that salary he might have nothing, and that complicates the whole issue.
How do you feel about people saying that politics is indeed a very dirty business?
Well, it makes it difficult for people that enter, I believe. Surely, like in all careers, there are bad people and good people. There are extremists and there are moderates. And there's people that misuse the position and corrupt people, and then others that is not. And sometimes it's just not fair to generalize and say all politicians do this or all politicians are like that, as it's not the same with all doctors or attorneys.
Now, at the moment you're in the news, let's just go back to your pronouncements. And I spoke to somebody from Nigeria today, and he made the point about the bond too. I want to say this, that at the time that you made the pronouncements, were you aware of the impact it's going to have?
Well, not really. In a sense, I just thought it's important that we have an honest debate. Maybe I must put my position. Now, my position is quite fascinating in the sense I move between, let me say, different worlds. I meet farmer organizations and I speak to them. I listen to the Afrikaans radio stations. I read the Afrikaans newspapers. Then I attend cabinet committee meetings and I listen in the parliament to the ANC. And I hear totally different worlds, different ways of seeing things. And I see myself as a sort of translator between these two worlds, trying to convey the messages from one to the other and how this one see the world and how that one see the world. And what really bothers me after the debate up to now is that it seems that we're still so far away and we don't understand each other, and if we really want reconciliation and we really want to solve our problems, we'll have to understand each other better, and we'll have to understand the perspectives and the views of the different groupings. Although we say everything is Rainbow Nation, everything is fine, if I look at the different reactions I get, it's still a long way to go. And my problem is we cannot debate these issues on propaganda, on sort of twisted history facts or whatever. We must be on the cold facts, otherwise we're not going to solve the problems.
So for the record, just restate what you said a week ago and make sure we don't misquote you on this one.
Well, my emphasis was not on history. My emphasis, and that's why I say, why do people miss the point? I argued on the ANC argument that only 8% of land being already is sort of transferred in a sense, and therefore it's a total failure because 87% of land ought to be then still in white hands and only 8%. And my problem is that you create a certain situation with those figures that surely people will react to that and say it's unfair, let's grab the land, let's go for Zimbabwe. And I say, but I don't think those figures are correct. And that was the emphasis of my argument. And for a few examples, the question, for example, on state land, there's about 25 to 28% of land that is state land. Surely we must add that. The Ngiyama Trust in KwaZulu-Natal got 2.8 million hectares. Where must this be added? Then I said a lot of private individuals I'm aware of, black businessmen, bought farms in a commercial way. But there's no way that we've got the audit to see this land's changed hands from white to black to add to that figure. And I think for the emotional depth, the emotion out of the debate, let's get the land audit. Let's look every piece of land, who owns it, and then we try to see how far we've succeeded and how far must we still go. And that was the main point I made. The problem came when I made a historical point, because the last 2 years we've been hearing about calls specific from the ANC and specific the Youth League that every inch of land is theirs and that every inch of land was stolen. And that caused a very negative reaction on then the other side, where he said it's not that simple. There's not any grouping that say I've got total, all of the land is mine. It's quite a complicated history of different groupings that entered into South Africa one after the other. I can be naughty and go back to the cradle of mankind and say we're here, white, black, everyone. It seems that the whites then went to Europe, maybe come back later if I want to be naughty. I can give different dates. But surely the first inhabitants of this country, then from our perspective, were the San and the Khoi. That's if you want to debate that. It's not going to solve our problems, but I just wanted to address this, that I've got a claim of all of the land. No white guy, no San, no Khoi, no black can say that. And that's the argument.
Now, we had a chat about the country Nigeria just before I spoke to you now. And again, just the callers and the type of SMSs we've received once again shows people with a very, very divided perspective of how a country works and where it comes from. My point to you is, at the end of the day, does it actually really matter who owned what at that time? Because so much has happened in this country in the last, 100, if not 200 years, and certainly in the last 15, 20 years. Does it really matter who owned what all those years ago?
Not at all. Not at all. But then some groupings mustn't use that argument to claim that everything is theirs and that the rest was stolen, because then that causes the uncertainty. Let's get to the Deputy Minister part. My agreement as I see it, and my job as I see it, is to help the government to create more jobs in the rural areas, to ensure food security in a sense, that's important, and also to make sure that there's rural development in the broad sense of the word. Now, these type of pronouncements make it more and more difficult to get to succeed in that, because it causes uncertainty there. People don't invest at the moment. They keep back, actually. At this moment, we've got 800 South African commercial farmers already in Mozambique farming there and say, we're waiting for you to solve your problems. We've got 22 African countries begging for South African commercial farmers to come and farm there because they need them for food security. I don't think it's it's good that we lose them in that sense because of this uncertainty, and I'm pleading for certainty to know where we are going and not for these sort of emotional slogans saying, you stole the land, you must get rid of the land, move out or go to the sea or whatever.
Okay, just to remind you, if you've tuned in late, well, why did you tune in late? But if you have, I'm chatting to Dr. Pieter Mulder, who's the leader of the Freedom Front. He's also Deputy Minister of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries. And at this point in time, he's very, very topical because of his pronouncements on the issues of land with regard to the Bantu. As you know, even on the news today, lots of calls from different sectors calling for him, for his resignation or him to be asked to be removed from, as a minister, in fact. 0891 104 207, 0891 104 207. I'll take 3-4 calls. We also want to dabble, as we normally do in the spotlight, on some of the personal issues affecting the minister's life. So we'll find out exactly about other things that he may or may not enjoy. So if you want to call in, let's do that very, very quickly. I'll read through some of the SMSs in a moment as well. But I will ask you, Dr. Mulder, about this. Are you surprised then, in the context of whatever you said, are you surprised at the response and the calls now from people asking you to step down and saying that you're not worthy of the position of Deputy Minister in the light of what you said?
Well, let's talk about the position. I'm a deputy minister at the invitation of the president. I didn't say it myself, I want that position. And so surely it's not for me to decide on that one, and they can decide whether I'm worth it or not. I think I can make a contribution. I've been 22 years in politics. I was a professor in a sense, and I know more or less about agriculture quite a few things, and they must check my speeches, what I've been saying for the last 2-3 years, speaking about how can we succeed in getting more black commercial farmers, how we can succeed with more subsistence farmers, because we're not succeeding in that, and maybe they must measure against that. But as I said, I'm not married to the position. I surely can play a role from the outside, and I can even go back home and play a role back in academia. That's also a position as that.
Do you expect to be wrapped on the knuckles, or be even, given the scolding, figuratively, in the sense to say, we think you need to move out? Do you expect that?
I don't know, Lab. I'm willing to. I'm not changing my position, because surely I would stand with my arguments, and if I would like somebody to argue me on the arguments. And it's a pity that individuals who differ from me do not want to address the real issue, but raise all sort of different issues that they drag in. And I can name quite a few. And I said in the end of the day, I was sort of disappointed in the superficial way that is being debated, and even on some of the articles written over the weekend. It's unbelievable. Saying, I said this, I said the country was not occupied by anybody. I never said that. Please quote me. From where do they get that? I say 60-70% of the people that react haven't read my speech. And it's so difficult then to debate ghosts that people put on, then they kick them down and they say they win the debate. And I think if that's the way we're going to have public debates, we're not going to get anywhere in South Africa to understand each other better.
Okay, I'm going to do less time talking about the actual content of the speech, but more interested in your personality and where you respond and how you respond to that. So let's assume then, because I want to get to the callers in a second, assuming if President Zuma meets you tomorrow, would you go in? And you've already made the point, whatever happens, happens, okay? And you
sure.
Thank goodness you've covered your bases. But would you expect to be asked to step down?
I don't know. You must ask that to them. You can't ask that to me. You must ask that to them.
No, but I'm asking you, what do you expect? Because, I mean, you would know what your mind is. I'm not saying it may happen.
Let's start from this point. When I was asked to become a deputy minister, it was about a week after the previous election. At that stage, the Freedom Front Plus just won a mandate from their voters to play the opposition role. Then the president asked me whether I'm willing to play this role and to make a contribution. Food security is important. I named those things. I said, yeah, sure. I think I can make a contribution if you want it, but I've got one problem. I'm not going to be co-opted, if that is the idea. And I'm not going to be silenced. If that is what you expect from me, then I'm not going to accept it. If I can still play my role as a South African, as a patriotic South African, but as a member of the opposition, then I think and then surely I can do this. And he agreed to that. If I may add, I'm not sure if I'm talking out of the inner circles, he then explained to me his own position in 94. And if you remember correctly, in 1994, Mr. Zuma was the leader of the ANC in KZN, in KwaZulu-Natal. Inkatha won that election. They had a provincial legislature and a provincial cabinet of Inkatha members, and they asked Mr. Zuma to join them as a Minister of Economic Affairs, if I'm correct. Yeah. And he told me I never became a member of Inkatha by doing that. I gave them some criticism, I made a contribution, and I played that role. And he said, surely it can be done, as long as you're loyal to South Africa. Now, I'm playing that role. I don't think anything changed around that. If on the other side they think it changed, then we have to discuss it again.
So with that in mind, the pronouncements you've made, and this is what some of the critics are saying, that they're not necessarily saying your views are right or wrong, but the fact that when you're a cabinet minister, when you're a deputy in this case here, of agriculture and forestry and fisheries, in fact you represent the country as opposed to the narrow prism, which is the Freedom Front.
Yes, I got two hats on. I play both of those roles, and if I may even add, when we first had the discussion with the President, if you remember correctly, at that stage, agriculture and rural development was one department. With Mr. Dirk was my first...
Derek Hanekom, maybe? Yeah.
Dirk Tutuwe.
Okay,
he was the deputy before me, and they did both of those. And I told the President, sir, I've got a problem. I don't agree with the way it's been going at the moment on the land reform part. I'm willing to help with agriculture, and if you correctly, they split the two departments. At the moment, there's different ministers. Agriculture is different now from rural development. Now, to be honest with you, if I look at my desk, 80% of the issues on my table has got nothing to do with politics. It's about food, about fertilizer, about foot and mouth disease, about how do we help these farmers, how do we help to stimulate that, etc. And surely I think you can play a role with that. And the other 20%, I've got an agreement with the minister that what she can do and what I can do, and I think it works well up to now from my perspective. I'm not sure other way. I represented South Africa at more than one conference in Africa already, putting our view, fighting for our farmers, fighting for better conditions to get our exports and imports in. I think it can be done.
Okay, let's get to the callers. 0891104207. Dr. Pieter Mulder, the Deputy Minister of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries, as well as leader of the Freedom Front, and the man very much in the spotlight, is in fact in the spotlight, up to 3:45 here on my SAfm radio show. We'll check through the Facebook comments in a second. I'll run through 3-4 calls in one go, so please be brief. Zwandile in Joburg, hi.
Afternoon, how are you?
Good afternoon.
Look, I think first and foremost, Mr. Mulder and his group, they're not loyal to Africa. And for them to keep on calling themselves Afrikaner, it is an insult. And secondly, I'll make an example, which is something that you know. If you look at the Arab history, the Arabs are now staying in what you call now today Saudi. And those people, initially, they moved from Yemen to settle up there. And those people, when they moved there and settled there, they were in the same continent, in as much as the Bantus moved from west or from east, but they all moved into the same continent. And this thing of saying the Bantus can't claim any land in the Cape, it's for me, it's almost like an insult, because the Bantus lived and interacted with the Khoi and the San. That is why today, if you speak Xhosa, you're able to pick up certain words that are spoken by the San. And for this thing, for me, something that has been going on, whereby the Europeans came and claimed that the other part, which is the Western Cape and the Northern Cape, they wanted it to be a Foxstadt. If Mr. Mulder can come today and say, look, when his forefathers came from Europe, from Netherlands, France, and whatsoever, they came with a certain land and incorporated to this part of the land, then I can say, yes, you deserve a claim of that land. But so far, they didn't come with anything. They just came on ships.
Okay, thanks for that comment. We'll get a response from Dr. Mulder in just a second. I'm going to run through a few more callers as well. Let's go to, is it Matella in Potchefstroom? That's your hometown, of course, Dr. Mulder. Hi.
Yes.
Hi, Ashraf.
Hi. Go for it.
Ashraf, I think the previous call actually said exactly what I wanted to say. But I just want to add that, Mr. Mulder, he was sent to Parliament by his constituents. I don't think they sent him there to spread lies.
To what? I don't hear that too.
To spread lies.
To
I
spread
did
lies.
not send you there to spread lies. What you actually said last...
That's a very serious issue.
All right, you're going to get a response you can respond in a second, Dr.
What
Mulder.
you said actually last week in Parliament is wholly wrong. Whites, both Afrikaners and the English, found black people in this continent. Actually, the original people that are coming from this continent are black people, and Africans in particular. What I'm saying to you is that whites, you know it, and whites, both English and Afrikaners, don't come from Africa. For you to want them to claim 40% of the country, which they never in the first place owned, is wrong and it's a lie. You know it.
Okay. Do you want to make a specific comment besides what you've just said?
No, I don't want to just ask a question, but I just want to tell him that he should not go to Parliament to lie to people. Okay,
we'll get a response. Dr. Mulder, I'm going to give you a chance to respond in just a second. Let's get to two more. No, let me just get to two more callers quickly.
It's a longer answer, all right, sure.
I understand that. Yeah, they just get to the other call as well. Billy in Randfontein. Hi, Billy.
Thank you, Chief.
It's a pleasure. Boss,
Yes,
go for it.
yes. Now I'm speaking to Dr. Mulder. Dr. Mulder, I think the approach of the president was very clear because we are living in a democratic country. The gesture he has offered you, it's another chance of making sure that you make a difference to all South Africans based on the portfolio you are holding. I think, to me, that is critical. And furthermore, is to say that the government of the day, we need to comply with that and move along those lines. Because if you speak about, you're going to charge who owns what, who does not own what. I will tell you, as I'm sitting here, I'm sitting with the documents of the white people when they evicted our people and killed some of them. I'm sitting with this document here because I'm waiting for the government to take the proper routes to try to address this land issue.
Okay.
That is why I'm saying that I feel that you need to be very, very slow in terms of that particular line.
Okay.
And concentrating more line, which probably will benefit us all in South Africa.
Dalia, thanks for that. I'll maybe try and squeeze another call in a moment. Let's just get a response from Dr. Mulder to those callers.
Can I react?
Yes, please do.
All right, let's start. I think what you hear more or less is exactly my point. With those emotional ways people are addressing this, we're going for a civil war, we're going to conflict, we're not going to get to any solutions at this moment. Because I feel just as strongly about Africa, I feel just as strongly about this land. I've got no other fatherland. My language is only spoken in South Africa. My children is here, they're going to stay here for the next 50 to 100 years. So we either work it out one way or the other, or we've got problems. I'm in favor of working it out how we solve this. He insults me when he said I'm not an African. The Arabs in the north is being accepted as part of Africa. They use the Arabs, they use their oil and everything. Why not accepting me from this part? Then he said, the blacks, we found the black people here. Sure, depending on your definition. I say the Khoi and the San were here when the first whites came to Cape Town in these areas. And now it's a matter of dates. And the word Bantu is very sensitive, but you go and look in Wikipedia what they talk about the Bantu languages being the major grouping of 500 languages in southern Africa. And then the history shows that they moved from the north, slowly moving down, getting contact then with the Khoi and the San. And there were certainly bad incidents as well. They did accept them in a sense, but they murdered them as well, and they killed them as well, as did the whites when they moved from the south up. And the Khoi and the San were more or less the victims of both of these groupings, and they were driven into the drier areas.
So how do you feel about the previous caller who said you're, in fact, a liar?
Well, it angers me all the time, and it's very difficult then to be calm and to debate issues without emotion. You know, and I can, I would like to argue then on the history as such. He then quotes documents of this. If we really must go into the history, I've got lots of documents of agreements between my forefathers and black kings that was sort of made, giving this land to you, Stellerland, Vryheid Republic, all those. But that's the past. We can argue on those issues you want. At the end of the day, we're in 2012. We're all in one country. The Freedom Charter said not about the past. Whites and blacks are part of this country, and now we must solve the land problem. Then I don't like it when some people claim everything and they say, I've got no right here. Then it doesn't help me to really debate it and to argue it. Then surely it puts me on defense and we're going into a bad situation.
Okay, I'm gonna get,
let's look at the solution then for these problems in a certain sense.
Right,
I was in Europe more than once.
All right, we'll do the solution after.
I just want something on Europe. There's a lot of black people now moving from Africa to Europe. If one of those got some problem in discrimination, the whole world shouts all the black people in Europe. But they've never been to Europe. What do they do there? Why are they in Europe? The Europeans must accept them, and the world immediately acts if they don't accept them. But he can tell me, I'm not part of Africa, I must go. Where must I go? I will not leave this country. I'll be here for the next 100 years.
All right, that is the Freedom Front's leader, Dr. Pieter Mulder, also the Deputy Minister of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries. We'll talk up to 3:45. Let me tell you what I'll do. I'll take some of the calls, like Marsha. I just have to stay on the line. I will get, we'll talk to you in a moment. And then for the rest of it, up to 3:45, it's only if someone knows Dr. Mulder personally, because that's what we normally do as we put someone in the spotlight. I need to spend some time talking about other issues outside the big political debates that take place right now.
Afternoon Talk on SAfm.
Thanks for that, Rob. Right, Dr. Pieter Mulder is the man in the spotlight up to around 3:45. I'll get into some of his personal issues and his outlook on life in South Africa in general in a moment. So I'll take one last call. Unless you know Dr. Mulder personally, that's the calls we'll take for this show today. Marsha in Cape Town, hi.
The real need for...
Hi, Marsha.
Good afternoon,
Good afternoon.
Ashraf. I would like to mention that I'm one of those people who, on religious grounds, have never voted.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't care for any particular party. What I would like to say is that I did hear Dr. Mulder make that remark, and I certainly don't think it was out of keeping, because I think, the blacks have shown tremendous arrogance, especially with the Youth League, when it's almost like threatening the whites in this country. And, that I take umbrage with. I do believe from the historical background that I've looked at, I've always been under the impression that the Khoisan have always been here. They in no way resemble Xhosa people or Venda people or any other people. They are a kind unto themselves. And South Africa, we're now supposed to be working together, and I think that should be the main point. But I do have to agree that the Khoisan were here, and then the whites did come in their boats and met the other half up the other half of of Africa.
Marsha, got that? Thanks so much for that one there, indeed.
Bye.
Right, we're gonna move on to sort of personal issues as well. So only if you know.
Can I react to Marsha?
Actually, okay, do that quickly, then I'll get to Billy.
Right. Thank you, Marsha, for that. And I think what you heard from them, they said we brought nothing to South Africa. My definition of colonialism is when you go to a country, you take out of the country whatever you can, take it back to wherever that is in Europe, and leave it here in poverty. That surely is colonialism, that's selfishness. A lot of people did that. But the reality at the moment is South Africa hasn't got the most oil. Nigeria got it. Not the most minerals. Angola got it. Not the best agriculture. We've got a semi-desert. But at this moment, we've got the best infrastructure in Africa. We've got the strongest economy in Africa. We export food to all the neighboring African countries and feed them. Why? Do we say that we didn't play any role? It was black people and white people working together that created this country. Didn't take anything with us. We didn't talk. The roads were built. Everything was done. So I get angry when people just say you came here with nothing. You didn't brought anything here. I think we made it better for all of us if you look at from those figures actually. And I think that's important to say that. Okay, I'm
going to run through some of the Facebook comments. Let's just pick out those, and I'll run through a series of them. Josie's saying, you're still affording that blabbermouth airtime. Siabulele saying, Ashraf, ask him if he will resign. We've obviously asked that question already. Kamotso saying, the long-awaited Dr. Mulder has caused lots of havoc. Where did he find this findings? Linda saying, another Julius Malema hogging headlines, so you've been compared to him. Kamotso saying, Dr. Mulder, has this pronouncement ever made you unpopular to your people? Lulu saying, the self-appointed historian, wonder if he still backs his theory. Motswell Lady saying, tell your guests to go join the Afri Forum. It suits his style. Bloody racist. Goodies contained says, as a South African, I feel offended by what he said in Parliament, but one has to say he serves his constituency. And I'm not going to read through the whole thing, it's just far too long. Leklanolo saying, one settler, one bullet. And Tulani saying, does Mr. or Pieter Mulder say that when he arrives in my house and find none in the kitchen, he then automatically has ownership? Victor saying, Ashraf, please remind Dr. Mulder that the Wikipedia is not a true reference point because it's open for anyone to add. Elton saying, Ashraf, ask questions more about factual issues more than the liar thing. Elton, let me just answer that one specifically. I think the purpose of this in the spotlight is very much personality as opposed to sort of pinning down a whole series of issues on one specific topic, and that's what we, in fact, are trying to do. Right, let's just talk about, okay, I did say I'll take one more call if someone knows you. Let's see if we do have Billy. In fact, Billy in Randfontein, hi.
Hello.
Hi, Billy.
I'm not Billy, I'm Pat.
Oh, is it Pat?
Yeah.
I got it all wrong. Hi, Pat. Okay, quick one, Pat.
I'm Dr. Mulder's ancestor because I'm from the Stellalander. It was my great-grandparents, Theodore Dooms, who allowed the Afrikaners to be part of the of the Selaland Republic. But the point I want to make to him is that there is no such thing as a Bantu-speaking people anywhere in the world. The word Bantu in Afrikaans translates into mensdom or menselijkheid or mense. So it is an equivalent of humanity. That's the point I want to make. And also that he is also from Africa because humanity started in Africa. So it is not naughty to identify with the down skull, because if humanity started here and the down skull is evidence from scientific basis to see as humanity, why should he separate himself from that history?
Okay. Pat, you've made your point. In fact, it's been sort of discussed to a degree already. Now, let's get to Billy very quickly. Hi, Billy.
All right.
Yes.
Yes, Billy.
Look, I want to find out, Dr. Mulder, was your father the one who was an MP for Randfontein around 1968?
That's correct.
We het in Randfontein gebly, né?
Dis reg, ek het daar groot geword.
Goed. Ek het vir hom gewerk. Toe was hy na MP, ek het gewerk by die Newtown next to Arenda. Ja, ek het gewerk vir hom. Ek het die hele dag gewerk. I've worked for the whole day. When he came back for a parliament, what he said to me, thank you. Not even a tea I've drunk that day. Look, that's the history, something I was a child then.
Billy?
All right. Thanks for that, Billy. Okay, quick response there.
I think Billy is lying because my father never did that. I would like to get Billy's total name and his surname and then to check on that because I'm not sure where that he worked. My father didn't have a shop or anything around there. He was in Cape Town most of the time and we had a normal house. Where did he work? At the factory?
I'll tell you what, Dr. Mulder, we've got 4 minutes to go. Okay, let's do this. Billy, if you can call back and leave your details with Judy and we'll see if we can connect you guys. Let's do that. Let's just talk about other issues very quickly. One, your thoughts on where South Africa is going right now?
You're talking to me?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, sure. All right. Well, South Africa got a lot of problems to solve. I think we did quite well up to now. But it's so important that the different groupings must start understanding each other and not stay on in these little worlds. And these little worlds are perpetuated by certain media that sort of create this world around maybe English speakers, around black speakers, around Afrikaans speakers. And as I said, I've got the experience moving between these different groupings, and I'm afraid we don't get closer to each other because we don't discuss it. And when we discuss it like this afternoon, it's sort of racist. All these negative things that have been said to me, I don't think that helped at all.
All right. What do you say?
In the end, and in the end, there's no alternative. If South Africa goes down and is a failure, if the ship sinks, we all sink together. There won't be this. The whites will not be survived. The blacks will not survive. And in that sense, we need each other. And that angers me then when people don't want to debate without all these emotions.
Okay, what do you say about the fact that whatever your view may be, right or wrong, it does nothing for nation building in the same way that Jimmy Manye's comments about the colours in the Cape and many of the pronouncements of Julius Malema in the past, that in fact, They prove nothing. Nothing can be done to change it. So why even bring it up? Because it does nothing for nation building. Your thoughts on that?
Well, because my experience is the last 2 years, whites had a lot of abuse being thrown at them. And the anger that is sort of building up there, people, because they're politically so correct, nobody expresses that, nobody says that. You must get the reaction I get from people that saying, please get the debate rational and put this thing on the table that we are part of Africa, we want to play a role. There's so many farmers that are doing whatever with good mentorship, helping other farmers to make win-win situations. We don't hear about this. We only hear about the negative, the anti-white and all those type of things. Please speak out and say these things that we must get the solution there and to say this is a beautiful country with a place in the sun for everyone. Once we get there, but then we must understand each other, we must listen to each other with an open mind and not sort of use slogans from the one side or the other side. In that sense, I think I made a contribution.
All right, 2 minutes to go. Let's move on to other things. Your favorite current politician is who?
I don't like to mention people that is still living. I like Paul Kruger in the old days because he had to fight the British Imperial without any education behind him, and I think he did quite well. It's always a risk to name famous politicians at the moment because they make difference and they change.
They change. Okay. What's your greatest regret?
Well, I had a very good job in Potchefstroom. I walked to my job as a professor, and I slept home every night and I had lunch with my family. So surely there's a regret as well, because people came and said, will you go to politics? Will you represent us? And I said, yes, I'll do that. And at the moment, as I said, it is a difficult job, and you must ask, is it worth it? Is it worth it? That's surely a thing that I discuss and sense.
And you're saying, well, it probably is not worth it.
Well, it's difficult. It's a 50-50 shop. And what I learned from my father is he did his whole life and his whole career he spent on that. And there is a question mark. At what sense you don't have enough time with your children? And surely as you get older, you start thinking back, and that surely is a regret. Maybe I should have been at that rugby match, or maybe I should have attended that concert, but I was busy doing things for the public benefit, and sometimes there's no thank you in the end of the day. And maybe that might be a regret in the long run.
What's the best piece of advice you've received? You've got like 20 seconds to answer it.
My best advice would be one person at the right position at the right time can make a difference that will change total history. And I've experienced that more than once, that you make a proposition or you make a proposal and suddenly things go another direction. You don't know when it happens, but can be done and makes a difference in the long run to make things better for everybody. Every grouping got the extremists, got the radicals, but there's good people in all groupings. And surely when those good people come together, in the Afrikaner community, in the black community, in the Khoi, in the San, in the brown community, we can make this country beautiful.
All right, lastly,
but if the extremists come together, we're in for a tough one.
Right, lastly, very quickly, an autobiography, what would you title yours? In 10 seconds.
I already wrote one book, and the book is Kan Afrikaners Toi Toi.
Right.
I wrote that book. You can go read that. It's more or less. Can we adapt to the new South Africa? Can we adapt to Africa? Can we play a role in that?
And if you did one now?
That's the debate on Afrikaner side at the moment.
Okay, so the Toi Toi was then. If you did one now, what would you title the book right now?
It's difficult to say. I'll have to think about that.
Maybe that's a good title. It's difficult to say because you never know where the future of South Africa may finally be. Dr. Pieter Mulder, thanks for talking to us and allowing us to put you in the spotlight. Appreciate your time.
Thanks very much.
There you are, Dr. Pieter Mulder, the Deputy Minister of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries, as well as the leader of the Freedom Front. Lots more in the spotlight. We'll do this tomorrow. 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 More in the